Welcome to the Global Rising Summit. Stand up, speak out, be seen. I am Janine Savient, and my co-host behind the scenes is Heather Ellis-Drake. And with us today we have Gary Sinclair. Welcome to you, Gary.
Bless you. Appreciate being here.
It's lovely to
everybody to life.
It's lovely to have you here with us. Reading out Gary's bio, Gary Sinclair is a speaker, author, and leader in energy medicine, as his latest work leads the way in memory energy healing. His work, Soul Link, is producing 100% results in neutralizing PTSD memories in seconds, as his medical peer review shows. Gary is the founder of META, the Memory Energy Therapy Association. Gary has personally brought memory healing to over 5,000 people and is now certifying practitioners in his patented energy healing techniques, which includes all types of energy healing therapists, including practitioners of EFT, EMDR, Reiki, hypnotherapy, NLP, and many other modalities. His work includes teaching the client to do it on their own, all the way to the practitioner completing the neutralizing healing process to worst memories ever and PTSD remotely with 100% success. Gary also has a 2-day program called Restoration that does the same neutralizing to your entire life. Gary will share how he came about seeking to develop such trainings 37 years ago, why today Soul Link is changing the face of therapy, along with the details of why it remains 100% success. He will also talk about how to become certified to do this work with others. Lovely to have you, Gary. So let us start with your life is lived as love living rather than love seeking. How did you come to this decision and how does it fit into your training?
Well, the key to looking at life is energy. No matter how we look at it, life is energy. And if you're going to function in a model of who you are as that which is the energy, I know that the beat of my heart is that which produces that field of energy all the way around me. I'm not my body. I'm the field around me. You could tell me about a 10-year-old memory, but can you show me your 10-year-old body? Absolutely not. So if you can't tell me about that 10-year-old or can't show me that 10-year-old body, then obviously there is something that gets created as an energetic field that is who you are. It's produced by the heart. I mean, decades ago, it wasn't recognized. Today, I mean, it's actually been proven that there is a brain in the heart, thanks to Heart Math Institute and their work. So knowing that that brain in the heart is the real who I am, the real who you are, I recognize that not only is it the real who I am, but that it's unconditional. I can't start it. I can't stop it. I can't make it work. And because that's true, that I can't do those things, then what I know is that somebody, some force, some creator out there loves me so much that I'm still here, so that I have that ability to serve other people. So if I'm going to make a decision that's going to cause me to be healed and healthy, and obviously you know a little bit about my story, then obviously I want to live as the energy of who I am, rather than the identity that everybody gave me. And the energy of who I am is no question that which love is. It's not only that which love is, but it's that which love is as an unconditional love that keeps me here without me doing a thing to maintain it. So for me to be healthy today for the last 37 years, or pretty much the last 37 years, after going through everything that I went through, the only reason I am is because I chose to become that energy field. So I'm not embarrassed or ashamed when I say I'm love living. I'll say it to people, they'll look at me and they'll say, what do you mean by that? The creative force through me recognizes that who you are is also the creative force through you. So I choose to represent that force, and therefore I am love living, unashamedly. I give it away. I leave it all over the place.
So, Gary, tell us a little about yourself. You've been doing this beautiful work for 37 years.
Yeah.
How did you find your way into this beautiful service that you give? What is your story that led you into this?
Wow. Let me try to give you the shortest version because I realize time is of the essence today. I wanted to get the gift of love through the work itself. I literally was born in 1945, so I'm going to be 73 real soon. I was born with two partial lungs. They were only 50% there. My folks actually took me home to love me to life. Now, did you hear what I just said? They took me home to love me to life because the doctors told them they were taking me home for me to die. The only thing that was available that came later on was the iron lung. We didn't have it back then. We didn't have polio. We didn't have those conditions that allowed that extra breathing equipment. And when you're born with two lungs and they're only 50% there, yeah, you don't have much of a chance. But let me tell you, they loved me to life. See what I just said? That is so important. They loved me to life. Now, true, I became a severe asthmatic. They said I was allergic to trees, grass, plants, and flowers. The key is I knew the days of the week by the days I got. I knew the hours of the day by the allergy shots that I got. Literally, I was a child who, because of where my life was at and the inability to really breathe, I was fully protected. I did so good, I learned how to make other people do what I wanted them to do because it was their job to protect me. I mean, as terrible as it sounds, you learn in your own way to survive. You learn how to use people as well as them using you. So I grew up that way. I got to where I finally went away to college, which they never expected me to. I mean, even in high school, I was short. I was a runt my freshman year. The doctor said, if he really goes through a growing stage, we don't know what's going to happen, but still understand there's a chance Gary won't survive that growing stage if his body really goes through anything major. I was third tallest in my graduating class, so what? Did I go through a growth spurt? Obviously, here I am. So I went away to college. It was wonderful because where I went, my dorm was right in front of the hospital at the university. So they knew exactly, they had all my records. I knew exactly what to do. The people that were around me knew what to do to take care of me if, in fact, I had problems. And of course, in college, I had problems. The thing that I loved about it was I met someone that I call Saint Anne. Now, Saint Anne was the person who was doomed to become my wife. I love it, I love it, I love it. The deal with St. Anne is I graduated from college on Friday. I got married on Saturday. We started a family of two boys, and as soon as the second child was here, my wife literally had to go through some major surgery because she nearly bled to death having that child and other complications that were there at the time. So that was the way the second child came into the world, and yet within a short, very short period of time, I woke up one morning and fell right over onto the floor. I didn't know what had happened, but I knew that I'd watched my father have a stroke. He got the feeling back in his arm. He got his mobility back. I watched other people get the mobility back. So it didn't matter to me. My left side seemed to have a lot of paralysis to it. My speech was a little slurred. Everything that I saw with my eyes, I saw two of, and as I saw two of it, it seemed to go up and down with each heartbeat. Now that's fun, laying in bed and counting the clouds as they jump over the imaginary fences that you're looking at. But long story short, after a month and 2 spinal taps, they definitively confirmed to my wife and I that I had multiple sclerosis. They couldn't tell us what the prognosis was, but they told me that for sure, definitively had MS. It was 3 years to the date because it was Valentine's Day, the first day it happened. It was 3 years later, Valentine's Day, that I went to the hospital again. And it was wonderful because the doctors immediately confirmed to me, hey, Gary, now we know what's going to happen to you. And every 3 years on Valentine's Day, you can plan to be in the hospital. I bought every bit of the doctor's belief. I mean, my wife would catch me 2 weeks ahead of time doing my preparation to be in the hospital. As funny as it sounds, I can still remember the last attack because I had pills in my back pocket for my breathing. We were really doing good. We went to church that Sunday, and I said to my wife as we were riding near the car, realize how great I am. This is like Valentine's Day 3 years later. Look at what's going on. 45 minutes into the service, I looked at her and I said that I think they're going to have to get an ambulance. And I slid off my chair and down onto the floor. Prognosis was not good. I was getting to the point where I'd lost so much that after that, pretty much the only thing that moved in my body was my right arm. And let me tell you, that is not a good prognosis. I'd had other things happen with my lungs. My lungs were now down to roughly 1/3 lung capacity. So here I am, 1/3 lung capacity. I'm waiting to figure out what's going to atrophy in me next. I'm basically in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. All I figure is whatever's going to go numb next, it's going to be whatever it's going to take that's going to wipe me off the face of the earth. So obviously, depression was major. I mean, it really was major. I had this wonderful thing happen with me that I'd had for years. I had this way of thinking a thought, almost like I'm saying a thought, like, I could talk to the door over there and say something to the door. And I know that the thought that I'm thinking is complete when I've said it, but all of a sudden, in my own voice, even though it was in my own voice, I heard more added to that thought. Well, while I was in that time in the wheelchair, I'd look up at the sky and I'd say to the sky, God, if you love me, you'd heal me. It was wonderful. Think about it. God, if you love me, you'd heal me, because I wanted to be healed. And my true desire was to heal. And that little old voice would add back, and if you loved yourself, you'd heal. Now, let me say that completely, because remember, it just continued as though it was the same thought. I'd say, God, if you love me, you'd heal me. And the voice would say, and if you loved yourself, you'd heal. Well, that was part of the wake-up call. I determined I'm absolutely, positively, totally, completely going to heal. I mean, I can't begin to tell you everything I went through, but I had a chiropractor, I had an acupuncturist, I had massage therapists, I had nutritionists, you name it. If it was out there, they joined my team. I can still remember my doctor saying, but you don't understand, Gary, you have MS. People don't heal from MS. And I wanted him to know that I was going to heal. It was wonderful, because 6 months into going through all the research, all the work that I did, I can take my finger right now and put it on the back of my left calf where I hadn't had a feeling in 14 years. To this day, it's almost like I've got this little sticking out light switch that I can touch. And when I touch it, that's the point where I got feeling in the back of that leg for the first time in 14 years. It wasn't on the top of the leg. It wasn't on the bottom of the leg. It was in the middle of the calf. And as I cried, I said to that doctor, don't do anything more to me today, because he was doing rolling pin massage, trying to get all the cramps in my body out. I said, I'm going to tell you right now, absolutely, positively, totally, completely, there's not one thing that's going to ever prevent me from healing. Understand that. Not one thing. I know that I know I'm going to heal. It took 16 months to where I was pretty much to where I actually went to my community church. I was in a Lutheran church at that point in time. I took communion on that Sunday. In my own mind's eye at that point in time, that's when my voice switched to where I said I had MS. And you're never going to hear me ever say anything different than I had MS. But those people that watched me walk up and get communion that day, those are the same people that had watched me be wheeled around in a wheelchair.
Wow.
6 months later, I'd had enough happen with my lungs, so those 50% lungs had now gone down to 1/3 lung capacity. Again, very difficult to breathe. It means you're not going to get up and go run. You're not going to go do a marathon. You're not going to do much of anything, because it takes that much energy to do it. However, it was wonderful. I began to look to where I wanted answers. Really, what I wanted was the day my wife took me to the doctor, she said, you're way too depressed still. This has got to end. Come on, you're going with me. The doctor's going to give you a medication. This depression is going to end right now. Well, it really didn't, because when the doctor saw me, I told him my lungs needed to heal and I needed something that was brand new for medication. He says, well, let's do this. It's slow today. Let me just take your blood work. Let me see where you're at. Because they were already doing my blood work every 6 months because of the level I was on. He went back to the lab, and when he came back through the door to find me, that look on his face, it wasn't too good. He said, Gary, I need to let you know there isn't anything new. And in fact, based on the blood work that we just did, we need to double your dosage. Immediately in my head was saying, no way, no way, no way, no way. I'm going to heal. It can't be prevented. I've got to heal. There isn't a choice. If I don't heal, I'd rather die. I took medication so that when I took it 20 minutes later, I had to be sitting down because of the amount of shaking I was doing. I had been on progressive levels of that medication, so that all the time for 36 years, they progressively increased my dosage. The average person of just one of those medications, it was called Theodore. It's a theophylline to make the blood move in the lungs. Average person was taking 400 milligrams of that every 24 hours. Hear what I'm about to say. I'm taking 1,200 milligrams every 4 hours, and he's asking to double it because my body's eating it up. He never told me I was a drug addict. That hadn't even entered my mind. I'd taken it all my life. How could I be a drug addict? I'd grown up on these medications. I told him to supply me with medication to last 2 weeks because I said, I'm going to tell you in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to heal. Because if I don't heal, you can double the dosage, but I don't want it. It's nothing I want in my life. But if I'm going to live, I recognize I'm going to have to do it. Well, it was wonderful because I'm going to make a long story short. I went to the church elders in that church. I told them what the problem was. I told them what I needed for a solution. And they took out the big black book and tried to explain to me that that's the way God made you, Gary. Don't be upset. Don't blaspheme the Holy Spirit. Understand if God made you that way, that's the way it's supposed to be. And I stood up and I said, guys, your God's too small. My God healed me of MS, and my God's going to heal my lungs. And when it happens, you're going to know it. Friday night, I'm at home. I've got out my big black book. I'm reading the Sermon on the Mount, and I'm saying, please give me answers. I need answers. And you know how the Sermon on the Mount, Christ is teaching, he's standing there, and these thousands down the hillside, and all the apostles are in the front row. I make them all move over because when I read, my fingers falling on a line, because my head's doing the visuals of what's going on. Well, they move over, and there's 13 in the front row because Gary's in there. And as he begins to teach them the Lord's Prayer, our Father which art in heaven, I love it because I'm watching him. I mean, this man doesn't have a microphone. Thousands of people are hearing. He's making the most wonderful gestures. And all of a sudden he turns and he looks right at me and he says, and thy will be done on heaven. I know, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And since you're not going up there with MS, what makes you think you got to go with the one condition? I got goosebumps. I mean, I got goosebumps. I took my fingers, I went back on that page, and I swear to God, those actual verbiage words were sitting right there for me to read. I still have that book. I opened it often and just say, please God, put the words back. Because honest, they're not there in the print. At that time, they were as real in that print as could possibly be. And the thing that I knew at that moment was not only did I have something that would cause me to heal, why wouldn't it work for everybody else? Does that make sense?
Yes.
That was
Absolutely.
big to me. If it worked for me, why wouldn't it work for everybody else? At 9 p.m. that night, on Friday night, I said to my wife, when I take communion on Sunday, my lungs are going to heal. She looked at me and said, that's nice. She'd seen a few other miracles take place in my life. Time for communion, and the head of the Missouri Lutheran Synod all over the nation, the head of that group was there that Sunday teaching. And as he got ready to serve that communal cup, where they serve the communal cup of the wafer, and they do it at every service, he said to the whole room, and this is the thing happened at 9 p.m. on Friday night, I got a message from God that when people take communion, their lungs are going to heal. Goosebumps. Goosebumps. I can't wait. I looked at my wife and said, see? We stood in line, went through the line. I had pills in my back pocket because we were going for a ride up in the mountains that afternoon. And trust me, I didn't go anywhere without emergency pills. I had pills in other towns in case I got somewhere and realized I was out. I had to have them every 4 hours. I took those pills out of my back pocket and I put them in his hand. I told him the story of 9 p.m. on Friday night. He turned my hand back over and said, well, Gary, don't you think sort of like as a precaution? I turned his hand back over and said, whose faith are we to doubt? Mine or God's? He kept the pills. Here's what you want to know. 15 minutes later, this skinny runt of an adult, my lung cage lifted out, my bone structure began to grow, and a complete brand new full set of lungs dropped all the way down in. So these ruddy little lungs that I had that were 1/3 left, 1/3 of a total set of lungs that had once been 50%, became absolutely full. And in order for that to happen, the bones had to move forward and grow. And to this day, my rib cage sticks right out there, and Gary breathes absolutely full. That's the beginning of my life story. That's the first 36 years. Now it's 37 years later. And the key is I realized I had to research. I had to figure out what did I do that everybody wanted to do. Because, boy, it's like a line at your door. If you tell me what you did, I can do it. I couldn't tell them. All I really knew is I fell in love with me. It didn't matter what was wrong. If it was going to get here, the doctor wasn't going to love it and it changed. He could give me medication, but it wouldn't change it. It hadn't changed. I'd gone 14 years. It only gotten worse. Lungs, I'd gone 36 years. He wants to double the dosage. No, I learned what the power in and of love to heal. And I know today beyond a shadow of a doubt, love pulls whatever it touches towards its highest potential. And I'm love living because I know that to be absolutely true. I had to get my body back because realize if the legs haven't done anything in 14 years, I don't care what you do. Maybe you can stand up and walk a little bit. Boy, it was exhausting. So I started figure skating using all those little stick men I had drawn off all the Olympics watching the figure skate. At the age of 42, I became the national senior Olympic freestyle gold medal figure skating champion for the USA. I've skated with some of the best of them. I appeared with the Escapade show with Ty and Randy. It's been marvelous. I can still ice skate. I just don't have the time that I'd like to compete and do the other, but no, it's still there. Because literally it was a way of bringing my body back. I remained healthy, literally. But what I did is, if everybody wants the answers, I began to look at every form of therapy out there. Think about it. There are so many things. I don't care what it is. If it had to do with somebody healing, it could be acupuncture, it could be kinesiology, it could be Reiki, it could be anything that's in today's modern field of energy medicine. If there was a course available, I took it. And I became a master certified trainer in NLP. I mean, you name it, I trained in it. The only difference was I didn't go to take the course to figure out how it could help me. I was going to find out how it helped someone else. So I'd watch the changes take place in people. I'd catch them to the side. I would figure out what did happen, where was that magic bullet? And because of that, I took the magic bullets. And over time, I created a course that at that time would take a person to where at the end of 3 days, there wouldn't be a memory they could think of that still bothered them. That's powerful. But I taught them, who are you? Who is this energy person in here? How do you get rid of the foreign influence? How do you get rid of the controlling influence of other people that have been in your life when you realize you go to make a decision and you can't because somehow their energy is in you? How do you get rid of the foreign? You know, to me, the average person today is about 60% polluted energy. It wasn't there when they were born, but it sure is there now. And it's really not who they are as whole higher self. It's not who they are as awareness and consciousness. So we wanted to clean that out, and that's what the structure did. It cleaned it out. We looked at figuring out, who am I? Why am I here? What is life absolutely all about? So that program, with all the changes, today it's only a 2-day program called Restoration. But today people are being certified to teach that program. Now, again, there's reasons why it went from a 3-day to a 2-day, and that's where the piece of work that really connected us, that part that's healing all those memories, that's where that piece of work comes in. So would you like to know where that one came from?
Yes.
It was May 27th of 2014. That voice that I've talked about, you know, somehow you hear it. That voice woke me up and said, get up, you're going to write another book. So I said, well, you realize I'm already working on Life is Energy and it's just not ready. And, you know, it's going to take some time and I'll put it out there. That voice wonderfully said, get up, you're going to write another book. That one will probably never be published. I'm like, wow. So I got up, I walked down my hallway, I type into the computer, Healing Memories in Seconds, because I asked, what's the title? And that's what I was told, Healing Memories in Seconds. So I'm like, wow. The voice said, the energy of attraction's already built into it. I thought, what do you want in there? He said, well, the things that you teach somebody in the last 34 years, the things that you're teaching them that allow them to go home, maintain their life of where they're at, making the progress they're making, and become the person they've always desired to be. Teach them how to handle the emotional structure that they've been through and that they are now going through to a level of healing those memories. Well, obviously, it only took me a week. I've been doing it for 30 plus years. So that was an easy thing to write. I wrote it. I ended up putting it with an editor, knowing that when it was done, it would then get formatted to go to the publishing company. I got on an airplane to go to New Orleans. And as I got on the plane, I seemed to do that thing that I do where I talk to that thing that I know and recognize as being the creative source that provides life to me. And I simply said, anything more you want in that book, you know, it's gone to editing. If there's something you want, you better give it to me and I'll put it in. And I closed my eyes. All my world, all my life, and the lives of tens of thousands of people already has completely changed because of what took place in those minute minutes. I don't have the slightest idea how long it was, but I know that when I opened my eyes again, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt how to neutralize any memory, powerfully any memory. I just didn't realize the speed or the access or the quality of the end product that we were going to do. I just knew that it would work. I have a little gal sitting beside me, probably about 36 years of age, a redhead. I'm sitting in my normal window seat, which is right over the wing. No one on the other side, and she's it. So she became my target. I thought, boy, I need to ask her if she'll just sort of like play along with me now. I see how well this will work, because I know it's going to do something. I just don't have the whole picture yet. Mm-hmm. So I look, and she's sitting there. She's got this day timer in front of her. And from 9 to 12, every single day, there's not a thing in there. There's stuff in there earlier, and there's stuff in there above 12. But 9 to 12, there's not a thing. So I casually said to her, I've got a new therapy piece. I teach healing memory work. And it literally, all I'd like you to do, if you'll help me test it, is could you possibly think about a memory that really bothers you? I'm going to show you what to do. And I literally did. I showed her what that process was as simply as I could. She followed along. And what she did is as she followed along, she thought about that memory. I didn't know what it was. All my work is content-free. That's one of the things I love. Everything about what I do is content-free. So as she followed along, next thing I know, she's sitting there and she's crying. And I said, are you okay? She says, well, it doesn't bother me. And I said, well, isn't that a good thing? She says, oh, you don't understand. You asked me to think about a memory and it doesn't bother me. And I said, well, I think that would be a good thing. She says, no, I mean, it does not bother me. Look at my day timer, 9 to 12 every day. I don't do a thing from 9 to 12 because of what happened to me. I know what happened to me, but it doesn't bother me. How can that be? I love it. Don't you love it? She's sitting beside me on the airplane. It becomes the very first blessing. I have emails from her. I have emails from her best friend saying, wow, did you change her life? Well, I land. I get to meet with a Dr. Mike Leichletter in New Orleans. We went to dinner. I showed him the process. I said to him, what do you think? He says, well, Gary, all I can tell you is I don't think we can possibly comprehend what this is capable of doing. Now, he's a chiropractor, but he's trained in energy medicine to such a degree that really there's not a chiropractor that I know of has somebody come in who wants to get snapped and adjusted. He runs energy on their body. He does what he needs to do. He taps the bottom of the feet. He says, okay, stand up. Let's see. Are you set? Oh, okay, good. You want to make an appointment for next week? I'm like, he didn't snap them. I love it. So again, this man understands energy. I go to do a convention, and I'm doing that convention with my oldest son, who created a math curriculum called Perceptions that literally takes a child who's behind in school math and catches them up all the way to algebra in 16 weeks. Absolutely. Teach for Math is the company. Absolutely fabulous product. So I'm at that convention. I'm going to be teaching at noon. It's 9 o'clock. I walk across to what would be the French Quarter. I'm on the edge of it, but I'm on Canal Street. I go in this coffee shop. There's 2 tables, because again, you don't really serve coffee in the French Quarter. If you think about it, there's something else they serve, like that happy juice stuff. But finding a cup of coffee can be really difficult. So as I get my cup of coffee and I go and sit down at a table, there's a man sitting over at the other table, because there's just tables where they've got 2 chairs and that's it. This other couple comes in and you hear her say, oh, there's no place to sit. In the back of my mind, I think, okay, I'm just going to casually get up and walk out. They don't need to know what I'm doing. And the man over there says, if you move over here, they can have a place to sit down. Inside my head, that little voice says, divine appointment. Gary moved over. I said, how are you? Oh, my word. I can't even begin to tell you all the language this man used. But you wouldn't have moved into that seat if you know all that I heard. But he had been forced to retire after working with Katrina. Literally, this man had literally moved from making decisions as to whether someone would get picked up or die in the water based on him being the lead out in the boats, on and on and on, the memory structure he could talk about. I really didn't want to hear it. He said, last night's typical. He says, they've now forced me to retire because my PTSD is so bad. He said, last night I got this dream where we're just using a copper tube and ramrod and we're ramming into the back door of an illegal abortion clinic. And he said, my head screams, door, don't open, don't open, don't open, don't open. And he says, and always the door opens and you look into the tub. And I said, stop, 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 stop. I said, I'm trained in work, all sorts of different works. I'm trained in one called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I'm not thinking about this other yet, and not at all. And I said to him, I honestly know that based on the volume or the magnitude of the memory you're dealing with, it'll take me about 3 hours to really work with you, but I can be pretty assured that that memory will heal. Well, of course, he let out another line of explicatives on how it's been 11 years, doesn't ever work, you know, who the hell do you think you are, da 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 da. I said, all I can tell you is the work that I've done with other people, I've been doing it for 34 years, and it's never failed. He said, well, if you think you're that good, da 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 da, I'll agree to let you at least try. But when he finally agreed to let me try, we were going to have 2 hours today, and I would come back and meet him at 3 o'clock the following day, because under normal, for where he was at, 3 hours of that work was going to get me to where I'd be comfortable that he would be okay. The voice in my head said, do the hand piece. So I said to him, I've got this other thing that I'm sort of like figuring out. I just got it yesterday on the airplane flying here, and if you'd like to test it for me, I'd love to do a little piece of research with you. So I taught him how to do what's called Soul Link. At the time, it didn't have that name. Today, it's called Soul Link. And it was wonderful, because after he learned how to do it, I said, now just hold that memory in mind. Go ahead and do the processing. I'll watch what's going on. If you're doing the processing wrong, I'll let you know. Then I made the biggest mistake anyone I trained could ever make. I looked right at him after he did it all, and he said, okay, so how's the memory? Well, his eyes started doing a transderivational search everywhere. He had a look in his face that made me say, oh, no, I shouldn't have done that. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, no, 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 no. Just stop. Go back and do EMDR. And that voice inside my head said, ask him to check the feelings. So I said, if you don't mind, can you sort of like check the feelings? And still with this really weird look on his face, he looks at me and he says, well, yes. And he starts looking all over the place all over again. And then all of a sudden he turns around and he looks right back at me and he says, I'd tell you if I could find the goddamn memory.
Yes.
You talk about getting goosebumps. I wanted to cry, but I didn't cry at that point. I held it together. All I knew was wow, 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 wow. What I've learned today is that that memory is detrimental to the ongoing health of that individual. That memory can have significant quality changes to the actual memory. They can remember that it was about this, but that movie they run that causes the triggers, that wakes them up soaking, wringing wet, screaming, all that, it's neutralized. Well, I did it with about 12 more memories as fast as we could do it in the next, what we had for the 2 hours, because it doesn't take long. It takes seconds to do what we're talking about. The following day, he'd agreed. He gave me his phone number. He'd agreed we'd meet at 3 o'clock. I texted him at 12:30 and said, just want to know, you didn't know I made that commitment to meet you at 3. I can't wait to meet you. I'm going to teach you some more energy therapy processes at work. Well, at 1:30, I got a text back. You're going to love the text. Think about it. Man's lost his job, PTSD to the point that he doesn't really figure he has a life anymore. And he texts me back and says, that thing you taught me yesterday, it's fantastic. I'm going fishing.
Wow.
I want that. I'm going fishing to come out of everyone I meet who is in life stalled and on hold because of the memory issues that they have, whether it's from the war or whatever. I mean, you name it. Today,
Yes.
we're at a point where roughly 10,000 people have either been taught how to do it or had the processing work done to them as they only thought about that worst memory ever. I mean, the stories. Let me just give you a couple of the stories, because Soul Link in its own way has never failed. Number one, it's content free. I learned content because he told me what the memory was about. I don't have to know a thing. You have to find the memory. You start EMDR, you're looking for where the memory is located. When I say to you, can you think about your worst memory ever? You've already know where the memory is located. And what this process does is neutralize it. So let me think. The woman brings her husband to a demo night. He's standing there, absolute attention. She wants me to know it's the Vietnam memory. And as it becomes his turn for the demo, he says, you want to know what it is? And I said, no, sir. I stay completely out of content. And he said, well, I'm blowing his face off. So we don't know what happened in Vietnam. We don't know whether it was a child's face, whether it was an adult face, but it was his face. And as he stands there, I begin to do the process to him. 40 seconds later, do you hear what I'm saying? 40 seconds later, as he holds a memory that has caused him to lose his job, he's been 62 years of tormented horror with this memory. 40 seconds later, I say to him, as you think about that memory now, drop right down into emotions and feelings and check. Are they now neutral? Well, originally he said, no, sir, they are not. And his wife screams in, tell me, what happened? What happened to the memory? She's determined. She's heard about this guy. It's going to work. It didn't work on him. Why? What's wrong? So she's determined to do her part. I got her calmed down. Completely done. Well, here's long story short. As I say to him again a bit later, sir, as you think about that memory, drop right down to emotions and feelings and check. Are they now neutral? He says, no, sir, they are not. At this point, the wife screams out, why? He says, I can't find the face. That one, I cried.
Yeah.
That one, I cried. I mean, this guy, he doesn't have a life. Literally.
Mm.
The wife stood there and said, you don't understand the horror that we've been through since I married him. This is something that every night wakes him up. She said, he will scream, don't pull the trigger. She said, this whole replay that's going on. Permanent change, by the way. That's one of the things I love. In all the 10,000 people we've worked with, no one's coming back and saying it didn't work. I still remember the lady in Sacramento who was just a demo. I'm saying to this group of like 30 people, anybody here like to demo? And you watch her, she goes. And I said, well, that was like a yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. She says, well, I don't want to be your first failure, and I know it won't work for me. Of course, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that would be news. I'd like to have that because it hasn't happened yet. I don't know when it will. I think when it does, there's going to be something else going on. It has nothing to do with where this work is at. She came up, took 40 seconds, did the piece, neutralized the memory, and then she's standing there absolutely in tears. She says, please, I've got to tell you what this is. You don't understand. I've had decades of therapy on this. I'm 76. I mean, decades and decades of therapy, and it never worked. In fact, it just gets worse all the time. It's neutral. I mean, it is really neutral. So what she described at age 76 is being 3 years of age. She's been to the doctor with her parents. She's heard the doctor say she's dying. Think about it. A 3-year-old as an adult who still remembers hearing the doctor say dying. Mm. She was taken to her grandmother's because it was a holiday long weekend. At 4:30 in the afternoon, she's delivered to her grandmother's. The family is going to go away for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come home Monday afternoon and pick her up. Now, in her perception, she says, my grandmother was a big woman, so she's got this big dimension she draws. I don't know the size of the grandmother, but I imagine the grandmother was pretty large because of what she says. Mm. She says, as the family car began to drive back out of the yard, my grandmother fell on top of me. The only thing that was sticking outside my grandmother was my face. And I finally figured out my grandmother died. She laid under grandmother until they came home and pulled her out on Monday.
Oh my gosh.
Think about the trauma.
Wow.
We say our content because we don't know what someone else is going through. We don't need to buy their story. But this is one I've got to tell you.
Yeah.
So the following day, because I'm doing this expo in Sacramento the following day, I see her. She's like bubbling coming across the floor. She gave me a hug, and the only thing I thought of is I've got to tell her, not so tight, you're going to break my bones. I had to come tell you. She said, I woke up during the night, and I realized during the night, I could possibly now have a friend. Think about it. Since age 3, she hasn't allowed herself the quality that you and I know as the relationship of having a friend. Because if I know a friend, they're going to die. Mm. That's the memory structure, the energy that got created at age 3. And then with tears in her eyes, she says, I might even be able to have a relationship. I don't know yet, but I think it might be possible. All I can say is, wow. I mean, wow, wow, wow. We're keeping records now. We do their name, their email, their phone number, and so forth. We ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being worst memory ever, where's that memory you want us to work with? They give us a number, we write it down. We do the process to them. If it doesn't go all the way down to a 0, it goes to a lower number like a 3 or 4, we just say to them, hold on to the emotions and feelings that now remain about that memory, and we do it again. Yeah. It goes neutral. Halfway through the process, it's completely neutral. If we get to where it's somebody that we need to run it the 3rd time, and that might be 2 out of 100, the only reason we're going to run it again is because they kept thinking about the memory and wanting to know, what does it feel like when you're doing the process? What are you actually doing? They don't want to keep their eyes closed. They want to figure it out while you're doing it, And because of that, they're going between the memory and the process that will make it work,
Mm.
between the memory and the process that makes it work.
Mm.
And it's okay. But in the end, they're still part of the 100%. Well, it was October. Was it October? Yeah, I think October of 2013, 14, 15, 2015, that I ended up putting out and writing what would be the foundational base for a medical group to review it and look at what does it do and how does it do it. Now, you and I know you don't send an energy medicine piece to somebody and they review it and write back complete success. I mean, that's like a joke. And when I submitted it, the International Journal of Complementary Medicine, IJAM, International Journal of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, IJCAM, International Journal of Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Well, here it is right here. The International Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. They wrote me back and said, this is absolutely fabulous. We'll have you published in 2 weeks. We just need to get it to our review committee. Well, 2 weeks went by. I wasn't surprised. I heard nothing. A month went by. I figured this is normal because this just doesn't happen. 5 months went by. Think about it, 5 months. And I get this email that says, we've laid it out in a format here that we just need you to approve. And if you'll approve this format, we'll have it published by tomorrow morning. There were minor changes. Now think about it. Why 5 months? Do you know how hard that medical peer review committee had to work to make this thing fail? They published it showing 100% success. It hadn't failed.
Yeah.
This is people doing it for themselves, to themselves, 2,200 people. Yes! That's the day my world turned upside down. That's the day I realized not only was I taking, because the original course was called Life Clean Health, it was the 3-day that neutralized your life. I mean, I'm already at a point where I realized I'm going to take a day out of there and make it a 2-day course called Restoration. So I'm writing the manual for that. That's 100 pages of training manual on how to do that 2-day program to guarantee that person when it ends, it's not a major memory they can think of that still bothers them. Plus, they've made the decision to become love living. Plus, the controlling of influence of other people is gone. Plus, the attachments, the entities, the foreign energy is all removed out of this. It goes on and on and on with what that program does. Phenomenal. But now, all of a sudden, I've got a medical review on this. I started writing the manual. I was being very careful to make sure if there's any way I can document everything that was going on as to how and why it worked, I'd get it in there. The end of June, so I've gone January, February, March, April, May, June, took 6 months to actually get it to where it could be a certifying training course. I used a group out of San Diego that was all Reiki energy therapists. That group, literally the first 18 I took through the program, trained them to do the work. We looked at what didn't work, what did work, what would you change, what would you recommend. And I'm amazed that when we came up with the next version of that manual and we ran the course again with 18 more people who still were, again, at least at Master Reiki energy level, so that I knew they had a comprehension of energy and how it worked. That course was phenomenal. I do know that today, many of those are working under the energy medicine director at a major hospital in San Diego, the group that put all of that together, that trained those people in Reiki. The specific group is still the head of and the lead of that group of people that are going into the hospital and doing that work. And again, the stories that come out of them are absolutely major. So now they're not doing a piece of medical research. They're using the work on people, say, that would request a Reiki treatment and so forth. Oh, the stories. Oh, my word. I love it. I love it. I love it. Nowhere is there really any major research right now going on. I certainly need it. I'm looking for somebody that really knows how to do double-blind research, because I can't pay for it. I can't be involved with it in order to be medical quality that they're looking for it to be there. And that's hard when something doesn't fail. Think about it.
Yes.
It doesn't fail. So what are you going to compare it to? I've had groups that do EMDR and so forth that I've talked to. Again, the pharmaceutical companies have such great inroads that there are so many things that could be done that don't get done simply because their dollars prevent things like this from making that much progress. And I know that, but it's okay. I keep around finding the people that want to work and help and serve other people. They're coaches. They're therapists. They're doctors. A doctor looks at what I'm doing. They check it in line with being what acupuncture would be, although I'm not using a needle. And in the end, they go, wow, do you realize this can't fail? I got to train in this. This can't fail. And what they're waiting is for that volume of what's going to hit as this work continues to go out. So putting that piece into the 3-day program, the 3 days now 2 day, that's called restoration. I give them a day off after that, and they must take that one if they're going to train in therapy with me, because I want the quality person that's ready to do this type of work with others. So they do restoration first, then it's a 2-day certification course to do that. They do not question whether they can now teach this work to other people, whether they're only going to see them for an hour and neutralize specific memories, or whether they're going to teach them how to do the work for themselves. That's now possible. They take another day off, and 75% of those that have gone through that first 2 days that does your entire life, they want to certify and be capable of doing that 2 days as well. So there's a 3-day training, which is to certify those people. And that's where I'm at. I've got so many things that are so ready to bust open, and I stay in holdback mode. And I have to stay in holdback. I don't have enough people to handle the people.
Do you travel? Do you travel, Gary, overseas to other countries to teach?
The country I've traveled to was Australia. And the reason I went to Australia to begin with was not because Soling came out. It was 5 years ago, because Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton, Bruce and I have been friends for 30 plus years. Bruce wrote me and said, I just laud your groundbreaking efforts in what may prove to be the future of medicine. Bruce is waiting for me to have enough people trained to really talk about what this work is doing. But they were there teaching. Somebody stood up and said, we love everything. You teach us such amazing potential, but when are you going to tell us how to do it? When I was told, Joe looked at Bruce and said, tell them to call Gary. They called. I've been to Australia now 5 times. I have 8 people over there that are now fully certified to do this work. The first person in the whole globe who is actually a clone of me. They now have the ability to certify other people in this work. Just completed that training day before yesterday here in the US. Yeah. Okay. So that's where we're at. That build out, we're right there, making it happen.
Yes. Wow, what a beautiful time this has been with you, Gary, listening to your story, hearing your life story and how you healed yourself back to life again, and the last 37 years with this incredible modality that I believe is for these new times, this greatest time of change that's happening here now, and one of the new medicines that is coming through, even though you wouldn't call it a medicine. I saw on your website, Gary, the words from Uri Geller. Gary Sinclair has the seeds of a cure-all powerful enough to heal not only ailments, but also the sickness of our whole planet. Wow. And after spending the last 45 minutes with you and hearing what you've got to say and feeling the energy that comes through as you talk, Gary, I totally understand what Uri Geller is saying. Yeah. And if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to make contact, all your contact details are going to be below this interview. Not that I'd actually call it an interview. You didn't really need an interviewer. You're an amazing man, and so confident in knowing and what it is that you bring, the gifts that you bring to humanity. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful to have spent this time with you.
So do we have some more minutes?
Do we have some more minutes, Heather? Heather's the technical. Yes, we do.
Everybody that's out there, you're watching, take your thumb and rub it right into your hand. Go ahead and rub it right in. Yeah, right. Feel that feeling of friction as it rubs? Go ahead and do the other hand. Rub it right in. Excellent. Now notice, if I threw you a child's ball and you caught it, I want the same space up here and the same space down here. It's like doing this, and that space is there. Bring my fingers in, that's the exact same space, top and bottom. Now take your hands and slowly pull them apart and bring them back together. But feel what you feel in between your hands. Feel the feeling of what you believe is there in between your hands. Can you feel that feeling?
Energy. Yes.
That's a feel-good party with yourself. You're feeling you. You're feeling the energy of you. Life is energy. Life is a mirror reflection of what's on the inside. All that is energy. So here's what I want you to do. My nose itches. There we go. On a 1 to 10, if we think about memories on a 1 to 10, 1's just barely there, 10's worst memory ever. Do yourself a favor, slide all the way down to 3 or 4. Now, a 3 or 4 is a memory that in you is a memory that could be happening every day. It could be something in the office. But whatever it is, as you find it as a memory, think about it as a memory. And as you think about it, realize that memory still bothers you. I'm going to demo this real quick. So put your hands down and leave your hands down for a second because I will do it quickly. I'm going to make believe for me now, I'm thinking about that 3 to 4 memory. I'm going to create that ball again. And as I think about that memory, I'm going to stare right into this space. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring my hands apart, back together. Now I'm still staring into that space. I'm only thinking about the memory. That was 2 times. Here we go, 3 times. Now watch this. My hands are still facing. I'm only thinking about the memory. I'm going to keep it on going. I'm going to take them all the way up to the side. I'm going to get them all the way to the side. I'm going to let it go and look around the room. Do yourself a favor. You've got a memory you thought about. Think about that memory right now. Go ahead and make your ball. That's right. Make the same ball you had before. And as you think about that memory and you're thinking about the memory, stare right into the space of that ball and follow right along with me. Here we go. Maintain your focus on that memory. Allow the hands to go out. Let them go out 4 to 5 inches. Maintain your focus on that memory and bring them back in. You feel that feeling of expansion and contraction. That's right. But maintain your focus on the memory. Do it again. 2. Now do it again. Maintain your focus on the memory. Do it again. 3. Excellent. Bring it back in. Maintain your focus on that memory. Let's do it one more time. Keep your hands facing each other. And this time, as you focus on that memory, we're going to go all the way out to the side. Make sure you're looking into that space so that as you look into that space and go all the way up to the side, you can let it go. Now look around. Tell yourself some of the things you see in the room that you're in. And now do yourself a favor. As you, right now, as you think about that memory, allow yourself to drop right down into the emotions and feelings and check. Is it neutral? What would it be like if you learned to do that as a child? That's the beginning step of realizing the ease with which I teach how to heal memories. The only difference is the progression that's there takes you all the way up to where it does not matter what the memory is. It is the worst memories ever, the things that have held you back in life, the traumas, the things that you've remembered forever. We want to neutralize them all because what I'm doing is what you felt here is like a field of energy. I use absolutely the entire energy field of everything about you. I use all the energy meridians. And literally, everything has some form or shape of containment inside you, including a memory. It has emotions and feelings in it, but that memory is still there. You think of it, you forget it, you think of it again. It's still there. You know exactly where to find it. So they're all contained. What the process does when you're using all the memory of the body, because you're using the transverse and the longitudinal energy fields to do it, you literally are, is it takes that memory, it blows out its boundaries. It blows out the holding container. So as the emotions and feelings disappear, because that's a negative the brain is holding on to, that power of the positive field pulls that energy out. Heart Math Institute says that that field of energy created by your heart is 5,000 times stronger than the field that your brain creates. So if the brain creates a field that we can think of as being 100 in a negative, and the whole field around you creates a field that's a positive at 5,000, all I'm doing is I'm allowing you to have the field around you become stronger and stronger and stronger while you think about the negative. That negative does not have a chance. It does not have a chance. The stronger that positive field becomes, the faster that negative energy inside the memory disappears. And therefore, that's why SoulLink has never failed. It has done exactly what it does, and it's done it for every person. I use the hands to do it simply because the hands is the most tactile input area that goes into the brain, but it is specific as to what we're doing. That work is going to come out again under a whole new name. It's going to come out in an advertising field for those that are training under the name of My Memory Makeover. In fact, the website, mymemorymakeover.com, they probably can click on it and it will work. Minor changes we're making to it. But My Memory Makeover is going to supply clients to people all over the globe simply because there is no therapy that does what this does. EMDR tends to run at about 80% success for those that are the best at what they're doing. I trained with Roger Callahan way back 30 plus years ago. That was when tapping became a new modality. Tapping for the average tapper, they'll tell you it runs about 60% successful. Who's helping the other 40%? Helping the other 20. We love seeing them because what we know is they begin to think about or tell us they want to, but we don't let them. We stay in content free. They want to talk about that memory. All we tell them is, you think about that memory, let me do this process to you. 40 seconds later, it's neutral. If they learn to do it for themselves, 20 seconds later, it's neutral. That's powerful. So changing the face of therapy is what all this is doing. So it's why I love who I am. I'm giving away that which is love. I'm giving away what that field is, because think about the field. That field is absolute. That field is energy that we tap into. It's absolutely created by the beat of the heart. So if that beat of the heart is what the field is, then really that beat of the heart is unconditional love. So I'm the one that has worked to create a program, a way of doing, a process that works, and I put a patent on it because I want it protected for those that are learning how to do it as work. I put that patent on it, literally, because souling needs protection in that what souling does, it takes inside of you the power of that field, which is unconditional love, and unconditional love pulls the negative charge out of that memory. And when all is said and done, you stand right there, they stand right there and look at you and they're like, that isn't possible. What do you mean it isn't possible? Well, I don't feel it. I don't feel anything. I can remember the memory, but it doesn't bother me. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all. I love it. You're going to feel a good NLP because I'm a master certified NLP therapist. They've got programs called submodality or characteristic representatives, where you break down the way you see, hear, feel, taste, touch, smell, all the characteristic representatives of a memory. You get one of those leaders who say, have you got a worst memory ever? And they say, yes. Well, that's the memory that's right here in your face. Do this process. They say, wow, it's like that memory began to pull away, and now it's way over there. It's like a little movie screen sitting way over there, and it doesn't bother me. Well, doing that transitional other work takes a couple hours to do. And yet what I've just shown them how to do took them 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Same result.
Yeah.
So we're making progress globally everywhere. The key is I need people to train. This work's got to get out there. I cannot do it on my own. My wife was my best support ever because I'd been married for 52 years. She transitioned in April of this year. And I'll tell you, she's up there on my side helping. It was time based on everything else that was going on in her life. But it's, again, in its own way, it's freed me up to be able to do that much more. And that's where we're at. That's why Memory Energy Therapy Association, or memoryenergytherapy.com, is where this work is now being taught out of. And all I want is that line to form long all over the globe. We're going to set up a training center right now. We're in the process of setting up a new training center in San Diego just so we can handle the volumes of what we know is coming. All those television shows are waiting. I can't do those major shows yet. Public Broadcasting asked me to do a show when they even saw the initial copy of the book. The request came through from my agent to look at public broadcasting. Look, people trained. I certainly can't handle all the people that are coming. I'm right now at a point where the only thing I want to do is train these people because anybody can learn to do it. The end results are obvious. If none of this, even the restoration that does your life, has not failed in 30 plus years, I'm right where I need to be. Do you need to be there? And that's the answer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
And love the back row. Mwah. Love you guys. We'll be in contact. You know.
Absolutely.
That's right. Excellent.